Have you ever had a couple of ideas come across your path in such a way that they combine in kind of a tentative, weird way, and you just can't seem to set the strange amalgamation down? Well, that's what started this sermon topic. And who knows if you'll be as caught up as I am when I get done, or at the end you may think to yourself, well, that's 20 minutes of my life I'm never going to get back. But one way or another, come with me on a journey. I, probably like the rest of you, have been living my life since last January, doing my best to watch what is unfolding on the national stage without turning away. There are moments I am sorely tempted. Sometimes it's because it feels too hard, like when for the third time in a day, my breath has literally caught, and I've yelled, "Are you kidding me?" Typically with some expletives thrown in. Sometimes I convince myself that it doesn't matter if I turn away because nothing one person does is going to change what's happening at that level. But I always end up at the same place when that thought rears its ugly little head. It does matter, if only to me. If I walk away from the meanness and the greed that I see out there, how am I going to look at myself in the mirror every morning and evening when I'm brushing my teeth? Moreover, I think it's a recipe for moral injury. In an article from Psychology Today, moral injury is defined as the social, psychological, and spiritual harm that arises from a betrayal of one's core values, such as justice, fairness, and loyalty. Typically, this concept is used in more severe kinds of situations, like soldiers coming home from the war and coming to terms with the fact that they have taken another human life, or that they have put innocents in harm's way. However, recently it feels like enough ideals are at risk and they're big enough that the concept feels to me like it becomes real more in the day-to-day, every day. And like all of you, this unfolding madness is not the only thing I have to attend to. I still have to get up every morning an adult. I have to wash the dishes, pay the bills, make dinner, not to mention looking for a job. So sometimes it feels like a bit much. About a month ago, a friend sent me this reel from Dr. Bertice Berry. With Dr. Berry's permission, I want to play it for you. Now, I want to tell you, it's a bit long, and it comes with a longish story at the beginning, but hang in there. She loops the story back in, and I think it's important that you hear the whole thing in her voice. Can we play it, please?
I'm Dr. Bertice Berry, and I want to tell you a story. I was in the airport, and a man came and sat near me. And then shortly after, his wife came and sat next to me. When she came up, she was a little bit perturbed with him, but you could tell they were a loving couple. And she was like, "You just left me? I'm standing by the bathroom waiting for you, and you just left me, and you just left and came without me, came to the gate?" And he was like, "Well, And so she was like, "How do you just leave me?" You could tell they were loving. You could tell that she was just kind of picking at them, and then you could tell that this had probably happened before. So I interject, and I was like, "Ma'am, not to get in y'all's business, but I kind of overheard all of this. But when he first came up, he said that he was lonely, that his wife left him, and he didn't have nobody." They both burst out laughing. And she said, "See, that's what the kind of thing that he would do. That's just what he would do." So then he says, "Well, she was standing by the men's bathroom waiting for a man to replace me." And she said, Yeah, because that's where you look for a new man, by the bathroom. And so we just kind of kept it going. Then I had to get up and go to the bathroom. I came back. I was like, no men over there. So I just kept laughing. When I landed and I got in, the woman next to me was really polite. And, we didn't talk during the flight. She was working. I was reading. And when we got up, we exchanged words. The person across from me exchanged words. Everybody around me was helping with bags. People were just kind. A driver met me, and driver was really kind and was saying how she was worried and concerned, but there was a famous Irish singer in the country, in town, the night before at a concert, and he said to the audience that everywhere he went in the United States, and he's been to the United States many times before, it felt different. And she said everybody was bracing for hearing, how bad things are. And he said you could just feel kindness. You could feel people rising up from their hearts. And I'm tearing up because that's been my experience. And it's hard to believe. It's hard to wrap your head around. But I think we, the people, is beginning to take hold, that we, the people, can turn to a stranger and get into a mild argument and turn it into something fun and joyful and laughing. People of different races, young black man across from me, how you doing, ma'am? How you doing today? Kids smiling at me. We, the people, it's like our ancestors have been whispering in our ears. It's up to you. It's up to you. And as I experience this and know the other things that are happening in the world, as I experience this and going through my own personal stuff, I know that it's not that two things can be true, it's many things can be true. But what I can control is what this person, is going to do, and how I'm going to respond, and how I'm going to love, and how I'm going to show up, and what I'm going to give. We, the people, is real. Raising our voices is a thing. Raising your heart. Walk through whatever space you're in, if it's your house, if it's a grocery store, if it's a restaurant, if it's down the street. Intentionally lift your heart. Send out an echo of love and joy and peace and understanding from your heart. And watch what happens. Watch how people turn and smile and no words were exchanged. Watch how eyes open up. Watch as a visage changes in front of your very eyes. You are more powerful than you know or believe or can feel in this moment with your stuff. Let's rise up. I love you.
Gives me tears. This struck me, partly because it gives me the kind of tears I associate with hope. It's the same feeling I've gotten when I've participated in the No Kings marches. Having so many people together with similar worries and clear ideals brings my spirit up. I do need to say, on an aside, that I think that some people go too far. Those signs that say, duck Trump, the kind of ducking you do with a well-placed F, I don't think those signs represent the best of us. They certainly do not follow the shared values of Unitarian Universalism. Our faith calls us to put love at the center of our interactions, our actions, and our lives. But even with those sorrowful signs, I have walked away marveling at the cleverness of people and feeling refreshed that there are more people than seems possible when I watch the news who believe that there are better ways to conduct ourselves than what is playing out. So maybe I like this clip because it not only lifts up leading with one's heart, but it allows me to believe that even with all the bad, something good is rising up. In the past few weeks, I had cause to speak to a therapist who was witnessing an especially painful conversation between myself and a friend. This therapist is a man who I respect very much and someone I don't get to interact with all that often. At the end, he was giving me some information about how to pay for his services when I asked, "How are you?" Now, we know each other well enough that he knew I wasn't asking to be polite or inquiring about the weather on his side of the bay. I really wanted to know. And he responded, "The one thing that gives me hope is that as the heat and the pressure rise, I feel like I also get clarity on where I stand." The truth of the statement hit me so hard that I laughed and said, "Well, I guess I know what I'm preaching about in a couple Sundays." For the next several days, these two interactions, the one with my therapist and the video you saw, rattled around in my brain separately. Do I know where I stand because I've differentiated myself from the other? For example, I had recently participated in the action at the entrance to the Coast Guard base at Alameda. A call had gone out to the clergy from the Sanctuary Faith Vigil asking folks to come and demonstrate against immigrants being snatched away and processed questionably. This was against the backdrop of the demonstrations in Chicago where a clergy member was harmed. So I was scared, and I couldn't turn away, so I went. I went with a clergy friend, and as we walked up, there were demonstrators in the crosswalks walking back and forth. And with so many people constantly in the crosswalk, it was difficult for cars to enter the base. Many had turned around and left. My friend stated, "I didn't think we were going to be marching where we could get hurt." So we crossed over to stand at the corner. We were firmly on the sidewalk, but we were witnessing the people on the streets. And as we stood there, a group of customs agents, based on their dress, drove up and aggressively began maneuvering the car into the crowd. One car got through, and then agents got out of the car and released a low-roll stun grenade. It was loud, and there was a lot of smoke. I had two thoughts in that moment. This is history in the making. And I know where I stand. When the flashbang erupted, the friend I had come with backed up 2 feet. To my surprise, I did not. I stayed my ground. It was as if, because my friend had moved and I had stayed, that I could see what needed to be done in that moment. And automatically I began scanning the faces of the people walking off the crosswalk to see who needed help. So maybe there's something to the differentiation idea. I also thought, I know that certain events will cause a kind of heat that then burns away the day-to-day. For example, when my father died, I had the experience that the heat of grief burned away the day-to-day situations. 2 weeks before his death, I would have been caught up worrying about whether I would be able to find the time to make homemade cookies, or if I would have to purchase the cookies for the bake sale at my daughter's school, and what that was going to convey to all the other parents. But somehow after he died, I didn't care. My dad was gone. That was what mattered. So, is the heat of our current day situation burning away the trivial matters so that where we stand on a particular issue is more clear? Is that what's happening? And then thoughts from Dr. Berry. Was it true that we're all being a little bit nicer to one another, or is that just one person's perception? Maybe. I started looking around. And could it be possible that our ancestors are really whispering in our ears? The thoughts then started swirling past one another and occasionally banging into each other and calling to others' voices. How does paradox play into this? Dr. Berry said something about many things being true at once. Brené Brown, in her recent book, Strong Ground, writes, "Paradoxes embrace ambiguity, our intolerance for uncertainty. They push our boundaries, and if we hang on long enough, often force us to deny the comfort of our ideologies." Such a dense sentence. Good sentence, but so dense. Said another way, the gift of paradox is that if we hang in there and tolerate the tension, grounding down, holding on to both ideas, refusing to let go to either one, a new and deeper level of understanding is born. So could it be that the paradox of holding on to what is currently happening in our nation, while also holding on to our beliefs, is forcing a new kind of reality to take hold? We, the people, are coming to the fore. We, the people, are remembering who we are. We, the people, are claiming back that which has been dumped. I must admit I like that idea. I suspect part of the reason I like it is because it returns some semblance of control back to me. Honestly, I'm not 100% sure how these two interactions fit together. I just know that when I think about rising up with my heart, I feel more aligned with my faith. And when I feel more aligned with my faith, I know more about where I stand. And maybe that's enough.